Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Valeria Maritza here at Healing Through You. I am an infinite being of light, and so are you. Today, my guest is Nick Prefontaine. Prefontaine, I hope I said that correctly. He is the founder of Common Goal, three times best-selling author, named top motivational speaker by Yahoo Finance. And he is going to talk to us today about turning trauma into triumph. I am so excited to bring this topic because it feels like it is something that we are in so much need right now, just because the way that things are going around, we're seeing so much turmoil around. And these are the type of guests, the type of people that I love to have here to share with you how to overcome, how to get going, how to move through the chaos and the things, the challenges that life sends us. So, with that, let's welcome him in. Welcome, Nick. I'm so happy to have you here.
So happy to be here, Valeria. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I heard your story. I saw a couple of clips on YouTube and I really loved it because, well, I want you to tell the story actually. Why don't you just get going and tell the audience what your story is?
Yeah, like I said, so excited to be here, and thank you for having me. Yeah, so my story starts. It all goes back to a day, a fateful day, when I was in eighth grade at ski club with my friends. And for those of you that are not in cold climates and don't have snow, ski club was you get to be released a little bit early, like I don't know, half an hour, 40 minutes early from school, and that was always a big deal. So we got released a little bit early, and my friends and I, my buddies and I, actually brought our snowboard gear onto the bus to get ready, so as not to miss a precious moment once we got to the mountain. So we got to the mountain and headed right for the chairlift, and the rest of the class went inside to waste time, in our eyes, to spend time getting ready, and not us. We were ready to go. So we headed right towards the chairlift, and on the chairlift ride up, Valeria, we noticed that it was very icy because it had been raining. So people were wiping out everywhere. And where the chairlift went was actually right over the terrain park, where all the jumps were. So the jumps, the rails, all those kinds of things that you do tricks on. And I knew as soon as I saw it that I had to go off the biggest jump in the terrain park. So got to the top, buckled into my snowboard, took a breath of that crisp winter air, and confidently charged towards that jump with all my speed. And going up to the jump, I caught the edge of my snowboard, which threw me off balance. And that's the last thing that I remember.
Mm.
So they wanted to actually bring a helicopter to the mountain to rush me to the hospital. And they couldn't because it was too windy, so they had to send in an ambulance. And out of all the paramedics in the area, there was only one who could intubate right on the spot, and I needed that to be able to breathe. And lucky for me, he was one of the paramedics that showed up to the mountain that day. So, still, there are several things that I can't explain about that day, about my accident. And part of the reason I know is that it's really why I'm here today. Everything happens for a reason. So, something else I learned was that my goggles, although I wasn't wearing a helmet,
Mhm.
my goggles, the ski and snowboard goggles that go over your eyes, those are the only protection that my head had. And the doctors, eyewitness accounts, experts all said that not only did they brace my impact as I initially hit my head on the ice, the initial fall, as I continued to roll down the mountain and continued to hit my head, the goggles moved to cushion each blow between my head and the ice.
That's
So
such a miracle.
just some things happened that day that if they didn't happen just the right way, I wouldn't be here today with you and your audience, your listeners. So the the third thing, and I think probably the most important, once I made it to the hospital, once I finally made it to the hospital, I was out. I was in a coma, resting in the ICU, the intensive care unit, unable to communicate with anyone. And the doctors, through no fault of their own, they were just doing their job. So the only people who were allowed into my room at that time was my parents. And um, the doctors came into my room to share with my parents the prognosis and the not so good news, not so good news, not so good news, as I'm sure you can imagine. And anyone in your audience that has ever been in a traumatic or an acute injury situation, the doctors can't paint a rosy picture. So they started to share the news right in front of me to my parents because they figured, oh, he's in a coma, he can't hear us. But my mom, however, understood that even though I was in a coma, I was still taking in information. So she stopped them and said, no, no, not in front of him. So she made the doctors step outside the room. And then once they were there, that's where they said that I probably wasn't, they weren't sure how long I was going to be in the coma. It was partially induced, but still, it was a coma. They weren't sure how long I was going to be in the coma. And even if I came out, there was a good chance that I probably wouldn't walk, talk, or eat on my own ever again. And even if I was able to come out of the coma, there was a good chance that I would need 24-hour care for the rest of my life. So my parents didn't accept this like so many patients do as a death sentence. They took the information, thanked the doctors, and allowed me to treat it like any other situation. So because none of this noise, if you will, got through to my mind, whether subconsciously or unconsciously, um, the reason I laugh, I still really don't know the difference between those two. Anyway,
It's not
because it didn't,
confusing.
yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it didn't get through to my mind, so I just treated it like any other situation. So I ended up being in a coma for 3 weeks. As I said, it was a partially induced coma. I really don't remember a month. And at that point, I was transported to a rehab hospital in Boston. And that's where I began my journey of learning everything all over again. And very early on in my recovery, I remember being in a wheelchair. And this was still even before I could talk, and I was still in a wheelchair in between my therapies. And I could overhear my parents talking with my team of doctors and therapists. And they said, okay, what do we need to do to make sure Nick makes a full recovery? I heard in the back of my head, you're going to run out of the hospital. So then I was able to communicate that to my parents and the rest of my team, and then that became our common goal of running out of the hospital. So if you fast forward less than 60 days after being transported to the rehab hospital and less than 90 days since my accident, I realized my goal of running out of the hospital. And at that point, it really wasn't like Valeria, my work was done. I mean, I had to continue to go to outpatient rehab for another 6 months, along with being tutored all summer long in order to continue on to high school with the rest of my classmates. And really looking back at it, it's a little surreal that only 18 months later, after finishing my rehab from being in a coma and having to learn how to walk, talk, and eat again, I got my start in working in real estate when I was 16 years old, and that was door knocking pre-foreclosure doors. So homeowners that have received the notice of default letter from the bank, meaning that they have missed several payments on their loan and the bank still hadn't foreclosed. So I would get a list of where these people were. I had a leave behind. I was armed with a leave behind. If no one answered the door, I would leave it that we could help them. And if they answered, I had a script that I would say, and I would try to schedule meetings for the following week for one of our investors to meet with them to see if we could potentially help them out of their unfortunate situation. And the reason I share this is it didn't really dawn on me until a few years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, when a mentor pointed it out to me. She said, "Wait a minute, you were in your snowboarding accident, you were in a coma for 3 weeks, and then you had to learn how to walk, talk, and eat again. And then only 18 months later, after finishing your rehab, you were going to some not so great areas of cities and knocking on doors. Um, that's kind of a big deal. And I never really realized it because when you're younger,
Uh-huh.
time, as you know, time is compressed.
Yes.
So if you think like 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, it can seem like a lifetime. However, it's not that. The older I get, I'm realizing it's not that much time. It's not that long. So I did that throughout the rest of high school. And the mentor, Trisha, my mentor, who I'll get to that in a little bit, pointed out to me that because it was so soon after my accident, it must have been a part of my recovery, going door to door, helping people out of their unfortunate situation.
For sure. I did not know
So
that part of your story.
that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
That's why
But
I'm here, just to
let's,
share. I think that's a good place for me to take a breath and see if you have a question.
yeah, I have lots of questions. Lots of stuff came up because backing up a little bit, it's so important. I I think I told you this when we met the other day, that I love your mom because she was like, no, no, don't give this prognosis in front of him. He can still be aware of it somehow. And for you not to hear the grim prognosis, and then for her just to go and treat it as anything else, as like, oh, like I have a scrape on my knee, like we're gonna, move on, or I have a cold, just like regular, like you're going to recover from this, and how powerful the mind is when you expect whatever it is that you expect, and then you believe it, and because you believe it, that's your outcome. So I know, like, you gave me a big piece of your story with, like, I wanted to, like, run out of the hospital. Did you run out of the hospital? And that was only 60 days later. And did you set a time, like 60 days from here, I'm going to do it? Or did it just happen to be that time?
The goal was always to run out of the hospital,
Uh-huh.
and the time frame wasn't something that I was conscious of at the time because going through back to how time is compressed when you're younger, when you're that age, I was only 14 years old. Um, my total stay in the rehab hospital was less than 60 days. However, that seemed like a lifetime
For
when
sure.
I was going through it. They were very long days. I mean, I would get up, I would need help from my occupational or physical therapist. I forget which one it was. Learning how to shower again. I mean, if you can picture, I had to learn everything all over
Mhm.
again. It was like I was a 14-year-old baby. And then I would have physical, occupational, and speech therapy, after which you broke for lunch. And then after lunch, I would have another physical, occupational, and speech therapy. So that was 5 days a week, and they were long. Yeah, it was long days for me. I just focused on what was in front of me every day and did the best that I could do every day. And I started to unknowingly use a system to not only make a full recovery, but run out of the hospital. And that's what I teach to this day. That's a STEP system. Now, STEP is an acronym. What I'll do is give a 10,000 foot view. Then, if anyone's interested at the end, I can let them know how they can download the whole STEP system for free. So, STEP stands for support. Make sure that you have the support of your family and friends. And this is going to have you falling back on relationships that you built prior to your setback. T is trust. Trust that once you take your first step, your next step is always going to be available to you. And this also starts by trusting that voice that we all have inside of ourselves, and you have to follow that. So I already shared how that voice was telling me you're going to run out of the hospital, and then I followed that. And I'll also tell you a little bit later in my story how that voice came back and led me to what I'm doing today. So E is energy. Maintaining your energy allows your body's natural ability to be able to heal itself, and medication has the potential to get in the way of that. And then P is persistence. So once you've taken your first step, keep getting up every day and taking your next step, no matter how small.
That's amazing. Thank you for that. What I have a question here about your doctors, the doctors that came in with that really grim prognosis for you. And then, your mom not letting you hear it. And then how did that shift? How did you start, or how did she get you to start going on the path of recovery? How did that happen? And what did the doctor say to all this?
I think you said it, and I haven't had many people pick up on it, but you said it intuitively what she did. So my parents, they just treated it like any other situation for me. So they kind of led me to believe that, oh, okay, this is something that happened. We just have to fix it. Like we just have to make this small adjustment. We just have to get better, and then we can get back home and we can get back to normal life, living everyday life. They just treat it like it was something that happened, and we just had to get past it and move on. So it was never more than that. I never knew the prognosis. Like I didn't find that out until later.
Amazing. So after you woke up from your coma, um, were you able to communicate in some way? I know you said you couldn't speak yet or anything. How did your mom start you to begin to move and to get to the next level? What did the doctors think about that? Or did you wake up and was it like, yep, this is the prognosis that I knew, or was it like, there's something else here?
Yeah, this is a common misperception. I mean, waking up from a coma is not like you see in the movies.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Or on TV. So it was a partially induced coma. So it was like I slowly came off the medication, and even though it was 3 weeks, I really don't remember a month. I mean, I've seen videos of myself in the ICU. I have no conscious memory of the ICU, but I've seen videos of myself. I'm looking around. I have my eyes open. I have no memory of that. Um, so yeah, it was just I don't know. It was just what was in front of me, and I just something happened, and I had to get past it. So the how I was communicating at first, I mean, it started out with just blinking, like blinking, and then mouthing words, and then whispering, and slowly I was able to get my voice back and learn how to talk again. Um, and along with everything else, I had to learn everything else, but because I was 14 years old when it happened, everything came back quick. Like I was able to get it back quicker than just learning it for the first time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that's incredible the way I just keep thinking back. I know you said the time felt like so much longer for you, but it ended up being about 60 days before you went out into rehab. But I've heard these stories from other people like Joe Dispenza, who, also was like, I had to get rid of anyone who is negative. I did not want to hear anything negative that I wasn't going to be able to walk. And then I knew that 60 days later I was going to walk out of the hospital, and he did. And your story feels like it's the same thing. Um, only you were just so open to just living your life, to doing the things that you knew how to do, and to just trusting your mom because she was your pillar of light, guiding you and telling you, hey, this is what we're going to do. So it just feels like without you knowing or without intentionally going in that direction, you were able to help your body heal itself just by believing, trusting, knowing. And I believe that's the key. You knew you were going to finish.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a few things I didn't hit on my response last time. I was brought up in a household that was always positive. Always, I mean, even back to my accent, like when I got my accent, my dad at the time had sold his one of the companies that he was involved with that he had sold it and was traveling and doing motivational speaking himself. So I was always surrounded by like things like affirmations and positive mindset and that kind of thing. So I mean, my parents had affirmations all over the walls of my hospital. Like with each step I take, I'm getting closer and closer to my goal. And then I'd look on another wall. With each day, I'm getting stronger and stronger. Just some version of that throughout my hospital room, even before I came out of the coma and before I could even walk again. I did realize my goal of running out of the hospital. So I did do it. I wasn't run out and then go home. It was on the last day I was there, we walked next door to a pizza shop because I realized my food goal of a Coke and a grinder. And because swallowing soda it was something that irritates their throat, so that was always a goal of mine, a Coke and a grinder. And for those of you non-New Englanders out there, grinder is like a sub, a sandwich, turkey grinder, that kind of thing. So on that day, we walked next door to that pizza shop. I realized the Coke and the grinder, and then when we were walking back to the hospital, I ran. I raced my physical therapist back to the hospital. So yeah, that was definitely something I did, not just a talking point.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that sounds amazing. What a great part of your story. I had not heard that one before either. Um, Awesome. So I know I keep talking about this recovery because I feel there's so much here for you to give. Because how powerful is it that for anyone who's listening, whomever is a parent and has a child that has had some type of trauma or something, that these affirmations and this positive thinking and believing does make a difference to the point that it can make a full recovery like you, and just giving that to their children or their spouse or anybody else. But it's just such a powerful thing to have. And, oh, that actually works. Just keep putting that positive um written word or the positive spoken word and the positive feeling and just moving on, and as you said before, just focusing on what I have to do right now.
Hmm. Absolutely. Just yeah, and I think there's a few things there's a few more things about this. So I think maybe what would be best is we could really dive deep and go into detail here, Valeria, and then maybe in 6 or 10 months or 12 months, you could have me back and I could really talk about the second thing that came up in my life, which is the voice challenge and how that whole thing came about. Because I really want to kind of give this the full time it deserves right now. So,
Mhm.
um, I kind of glazed over it earlier that during like I would get up, I need help learning how to shower again. Then I had physical, occupational, and speech therapy, and it was after that we break for lunch. Now, this particular day that I'm kind of revisiting is I was still in a wheelchair, and for whatever reason, I was just having a moment of weakness. And I can remember looking over my situation and looking at the wheelchair, and I was with my mom, who was with me every day during the day. Her and a lot of the days, her parents would come in and spend days with us as well. So I always had someone with me. That was part of my support. Always had someone with me to advocate for me. So I was looking over my situation. I just couldn't figure it out. I can remember turning to her and I said, "Mom, am I ever going to be able to walk again?" And she said, "Of course." She didn't even hesitate. She said, "Of course you are. That's what we're doing here, so you can get everything back and we can go home." Steps. So this allowed me to continue to take that next step. And I share that because there are so many people out there who have doubts. And people hear my story and they think, "Oh yeah, okay, easy for you. You got an accident and then you ran out of the hospital. Must have been easy for you." It wasn't easy, and there were points that I had doubt. That's why I like to share that story because it's so important. Because once she gave me that affirmation, that moment of weakness that I had, I was able to be like, "Oh, okay, we're fine. I'm going to keep going," and that's exactly what I did.
Such a powerful story. I'm so glad that you brought that up because it it really is about that. I mean, we are human. We do know the things that we know, and we have seen people tragically go into accidents and then, lose all mobility or, whatever. And we know this. So for us to have someone there to with, like you said, she didn't have to think about the answer. She just answer right away. Of course, you're going to run out of here or you're going to walk out of here. That's what we're here for. It's like, okay, so I was just going down that negativity spiral. And what could have happened if she maybe had paused or given you some type of question on herself or shown her weakness, seeing her son in this position and kind of reinforce your fear, what could have happened there, right? Like we have to explore the power of that solid, positive support that you had throughout your entire challenge that you were going through. And, how many people don't have that, and how all of the little nicks and pieces end up getting into the subconscious, the part, right? And going back in there and living there and then just repeating that part, like, yeah, that's never going to happen. The doctor says impossible, all of those things. And then that's what we end up creating just because we don't believe it.
Mm. I think belief is so powerful. So I was fortunate enough to, like I said, be surrounded by affirmations, and I that's how I grew up, just like a positive atmosphere, a positive family, and everything like that. But expectations are key because you're in most cases, the majority of cases, you're going to get what you expect, and it never entered my mind that there was never any other
Yeah,
possible outcome. It wasn't like if I did this with outcome, but to me, no, there wasn't another outcome. This is how it was going to be.
yeah.
I never allowed myself to think that way, and I think uh, my support system, and again, for me, it was my parents, but your support doesn't have to be your parents.
Hmm.
For me, it was my parents. They didn't allow me to think that way either. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so many people go through different diagnoses like cancer, right? It's like such a negative word that everybody's like, oh, completely like instantly like I'm gonna die. Well, we're all gonna die. We're all here, right? But it's like it's almost as if a lot of people just give up when they hear that word or when they hear a negative prognosis and they just give up and they just go along with whatever it is told to them instead of you, on the other hand, which was like, this is what I know. I know this is, just like any the other thing. I'm going to heal. I'm going to walk out of here and everything's going to be back to normal and not take whatever it is that the white coat is telling you as their truth if it doesn't feel like it's your truth.
That feels good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Did you want to go into your voice thoughts?
Yeah, yeah, we have enough time.
Okay.
So I continued doing door knocking throughout high school, and then I got into real estate, was working as a realtor, buyers, helping buyers and sellers, and in 2014 I started working with my dad as more of an investor, and helping him kind of sell all of his, not listing them, but sell all of the properties he was buying creatively at the time, not using big down payments of his own money or investor money or signing personally. So and we still buy and sell homes creatively to this day. So I started helping him with getting them on the rent to own market. And then that turned into, and back to the voice in the back of your head. So that turned into us holding, events once or twice a year. And by January of 2016, that didn't even make sense for me to keep my real estate license anymore. So I let it go and joined him full time. Now, ever since I graduated high school, I've always had this voice in the back of my head, again, back to that, saying, whatever I'm doing, door knocking, working as a realtor, it says, yeah, great, Nick. What you really need to be doing is telling your story from stage in helping trauma or accident or life crisis survivors through their challenge first, and then so they'll be able to thrive with the rest of their lives. So that voice has always been there, and because I've had the opportunity with our company, Smart Real Estate Coach, to be telling my story from stage at our events once or twice a year, I always thought, yeah, okay, I'm listening to it, so that voice would get quieter. Then it wasn't until 2019 when I was telling, so 6 years ago now, a little over 6 years ago, I was telling my story at one of our events. And I think to that point, it was probably the longest I'd ever spoke before, and that was maybe 15 or 20 minutes. And I thought that was a big deal. Well, I shared my story, and then someone approached me after, Valeria, and um, she congratulated me and said, if you're ever looking to fine tune your message and bring it to another level so that you're able to have maximum impact and help the most amount of people, I can introduce you to a few coaches and mentors that have helped me along the way. So I wasn't ready yet because I was actually still going through the final throes of a voice issue that I developed in 2012. And it sounded really like strained, like it was hard to get the words out. That's how it sounded because I had a lot of tension in my throat. That's not how it felt though. That's how it sounded. So long story short, and ended up in a voice specialist office in August of 2013. Started getting Botox injections into my vocal folds along with their higher level speech pathologist, speech therapist to kind of retrain my throat muscles back to how they were after my accident and before I developed any issue with my voice. So I would lose my voice with the Botox injection, and then as it was coming back, I would retrain my throat muscles with exercises and visits to the speech therapist to kind of train myself to speak again. So it was in 2019 when this woman, Sharon Spano, approached me and said, oh, like, great, you have an amazing story and everything. So I wasn't ready yet because my voice was still pretty tight. I was still in the final throes of my voice issue. However, I always hung on to her card. So in 2021, May of 2021, I was finally ready, and that voice issue had worked its way out of my system. So I reached out to her and I said, okay, I'm ready. What should I do? Who should I talk to? She introduced me to her mentor, who became my mentor. And I shared my goals and my story and what I was looking to do with her. She recommended that I do the speaker salon in the fall of 2021. And that's when you commute to New York City for 6 weeks in a row. And you get to work on a 10 to 15 minute talk with up to 10 other speakers on stage at the Triad Theater in New York City and take her live direction feedback. So she said that's 25,000, and I, in a heartbeat, it was something in my soul I had to like. I have to do this. Yes, because again, it was following this voice in the back of my head, saying that that's what I should be doing. That I linked these two together because so then during the speaker salon, halfway through, Trisha pitched the idea of what it would look like to work with her one-on-one. She said she specializes in helping speakers to help them build out their speaker platform. I didn't even know what that was, Valeria. I mean, um, before her, I maybe spoke for 15 or 20 minutes,
Mhm.
and that was a big deal to me. So she said that's 75,000 and
Okay.
$75,000. And I said, I don't have that hiding underneath my mattress. However, give me a week and I'll figure it out. So I went and applied for financing, got approved, wired her the money 6 days later. And I'm so happy I did. I just wrote about this in my newsletter that's coming out tomorrow, this 3 second decision, because uh, when I was given this choice, I very easily could have said, I don't know about that. I got to think about it, or that's too much, or just straight out no. Uh, but I said yes. And I'm so happy I did because now I give 45 and 60-minute keynote talks where I get to have a lot of fun. I get to teach the step system and tell some really funny, fun stories from the hospital. And that's just how I view things always is how is this funny? Like, so, in my healing journey. So like the Healing Through You podcast. So, um, it's a lot of yes, it's a lot of fun. And if I didn't say yes to that, I could not imagine my life today because what this has allowed me to do now, in addition to speaking to brain injury associations all over the country and other organizations that support individuals that are going through trauma, I'm also talking to probably 8 to 10 podcasts a month where I'm able to share my story, share the step system, and again, really have fun. And without saying yes in this 3 second decision, this wouldn't, or that 3 second decision back in 2021, this wouldn't have been possible. So I'm so happy I did.
Another very powerful statement there. I mean, so many of us are conditioned to fear. What am I going to lose by taking this action? Like people are like, dysfunctional relationships or a job they hate and it's like, oh, I want to leave, I want something else, but they don't because they're so afraid of what they're going to lose. And in your case, like, that's like substantial amount of money that not many people have around, neither do you. But to really have that, like, here's the opportunity, and knowing in your heart that you wanted it and saying yes full-heartedly, and I'm going to figure it out, and then you do. And this is just a testament of how when things are aligned for you, when they're just coming for you, that everything happens so quickly, doesn't it? It's
Mm,
like, here it is. There's the opportunity. I'm saying yes. I figure it out within a week. I'm in it. It's like that is just a testament of things flowing for you, where it's going to take you to a much better place than what you were before because you said yes, because you took action on yourself without that fear, which is, what keeps most of us in a place of like complacement.
mm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think I mean that was a 5 year loan,
Mhm.
uh, and I actually after 3 years I paid that off. This time last year I paid that off, and again I'm so happy. Yeah, it wasn't for those 3 years. It wasn't that I was making those payments. It was it wasn't super easy, but
Hmm.
again, I'm so happy I did it because at that during that time I did everything. Every single thing that my mentor recommended and told me and taught me to do, I did everything
Hmm.
during that time. So I almost like linked it to working with her and like following her advice those 2 years. So I'm I paid that off. Like I said, I'm now speaking all over the country on podcasts, at events, and I'm so happy I did because without her advice and guidance, would I have got here? Yeah, probably, but it probably would have taken me 10, 15, or 20 years to get there.
Yep.
So it definitely shortened my learning curve, and I'm so happy I did because I just had to follow that. When I had that opportunity, I just had to follow that.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, it's just like college, right? I mean, college now is like 100,000 for a year. So, I mean, it's just like you invested in yourself. You went to study and do all the things that you were supposed to do, all the courses. And here you are. So amazing. I love that. I love your decision. Also, I'm not sure you're aware of this, but like every time that you mention how happy you were, you touch your heart, which is your connection. Like I'm so happy. It's like such a genuine feeling that you're just sharing. And I just want to make that connection to anyone else who's watching that, yeah, that's a sign that this is coming from the heart. You're being guided through your heart space to what is taking you to your next level in this beautiful life that you have.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that because a lot of people aren't watching this, so they're only listening to it. And one of the things I said the other day a different interview was there's I'm sure of it. There are dots, because you can't connect the dots going forward. You can only looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. I'm sure I haven't seen the full power and effect of that decision. I'm sure there's still so much more that I haven't seen, but because I made the decision, I opened myself up to having that in the future.
For
If that
sure.
makes sense. I know we're kind of going off here.
No, it's perfectly fine. It's opening the door to a different path that you wouldn't have had all of these doors on this path if you hadn't said yes to that first one.
Hmm.
You know, kind of like
Yeah.
going, right? Going this corridor instead of that corridor. And this has all of this the shiny, fun doors that are making your heart sing.
Hmm.
I love that. So tell us a little bit about how, I mean, you already mentioned it that you're speaking and in different places and helping people who are going through traumas to move along. What are all the other things that you're doing, or how do people get access to you besides the internet and the and watching your interviews?
Sure. So, as I alluded to earlier, it's only a 10,000 foot view of the step system. But if you go to nickprefontaine.com/step, you can download the entire step system for free and learn all about support, trust, energy, and persistence. Now, if anything that like what I mentioned about real estate and how we're buying and selling homes creatively,
Hmm.
and then so buying them creatively and then selling them on a rent to own, if that appeals to anyone without using any of our credit or money, you can check out our website. That's smartrealestatecoach.com/masters class. And there you'll be able to get registered for a master's class, which is going to teach you all about how we buy and sell on terms, is what we like to call it. And it's not a great fit for everyone, but by the end, if it is a good fit for you and you want to learn more, you'll be able to take that first step.
Amazing. And if you just heard that and your heart jumped out and sung, just say yes and go look on the notes for the information if you didn't get it, and just say yes to yourself because you never know where your next step is going to take you.
Exactly. Yep.
Amazing. Nick, is there anything that I didn't ask you or that we didn't touch on that you would like to share today with the audience?
Oh my goodness. We went over so much. I didn't think I was gonna get to it all, but we managed to get it in. No, I'm just so thankful for this opportunity to share my story and my message and the step system with your listeners, and I'm looking forward to helping everyone if they're signing up for the ebook, and then through that they can get my newsletter. So I'm definitely looking forward to helping more people.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story on Healing Through You. I love your energy. I love your light. You're just a beautiful being. And thank you for all the work that you're doing to help the people around.
Oh, you're welcome. Like I said, this has been fun, and maybe I'll still come back in 6 or 12 months. We can do it again.
Oh, for sure. Well, thank you. And we'll talk to you next time.